Hi, everyone. This is Julie Harris Walker, host of the Catch a Break podcast. As we're rolling out season 2 of Catch a Break, we want to note that all of it was recorded before COVID-19 happened, production shut down, and everything changed. And it brings up a lot of questions like, where do we go from here? Well, we're going to address all the questions being brought up as this industry figures out how to go back to work in a world where everything is different. We're doing a series of live podcast recordings with video starting May 28th and running every Thursday for 4 weeks at 1 p.m. Pacific time. You can join us. Go to catchabreakpodcast.com and click on the live COVID-19 speaker series page, and we will send you the links to join us for those very timely conversations. And now back to season 2 of Catch a Break. Hello, and welcome to the Catch a Break podcast, the insider's guide to breaking into and navigating the entertainment industry. Season 2 of Catch a Break is brought to you by Cachet, the production credit card. Manage your cards and spend in real time and get cash back on every dollar you spend on your show with Cachet. I'm Julie Harris Walker, and today on the podcast we'll be talking about buying and selling with Adam Kolbrenner. Adam is the founder of Lit Entertainment Group, a literary management and production company, and previously co-founded Madhouse Entertainment. He is both a lit manager and a producer and has a host of credits and is the top representative of all Blacklist screenwriters cumulative in the history of the annual Blacklist. Adam, thank you so much for joining us on Catch a Break.
My pleasure to be here.
Here's what I ask everybody. What was your very first job in entertainment and how did you get it?
Let's see. My first job when I was a freshman, finishing my freshman year in college, I applied to be an intern at the William Morris office in New York City. And I went in there. I started in the mailroom. So I was 18. I was in the mailroom with all sort of what I would say are college graduates, but law school graduates, people with business degrees. A lot of them were from Manhattan. I was from outside of Manhattan, out on Long Island, and I had a driver's license. And the other people who were there in the mailroom did not have driver's licenses. So as a result, I was able, or appointed, I should say, not even able, the driver.
A key differentiator in Manhattan.
Right. I was able to drive. So my freshman year, that summer break, I spent basically driving around New York City doing errands for agents. I did a lot of errands and just working the mailroom. And then after about a month and a half of doing that, I moved into the music department, and I was just hustling, and somebody in the music group said, "You should come work in this department. Stop driving around New York City." So I was in the music group for a while, and I did that repeatedly every summer until I graduated college. I was in the music department. I was in the book world. I was in the television world. So I did all of my summers. I used it as my platform to help me at being an intern at Morris office in New York. I used it as a platform to jumpstart when I was graduating college to start my career.
So smart. So you had a real leg up once you graduated.
Yeah, apparently.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Miami in Florida. Yep. No real reason other than they had a great football team at the time, and I wanted to go somewhere fun. And being from New York, I wanted to go somewhere with warm weather. So, and everywhere else that was warm weather school rejected me outright. So, I went there and had a blast.
So then once you graduated, you go back to New York and work at the agency?
Graduated, considered going back to New York to work at the agency, but rather knew that I needed to be in the film and television space. Moved to LA, spent a couple of months just interviewing really all over town, and I had a couple of different opportunities. Thankfully, as a result of having been an intern and having years of experience, I had different opportunities, and I ultimately chose to go back to the Morris office, and I went back to William Morris in Beverly Hills. And I did that for almost 3 more years.
Did you become an agent?
No, I was an assistant, and I was going to be there for a long time. It was really what the plan was, and that's when it was a big changeover that was going on at the time, and I decided it was time to move, and everyone seemed so unhappy working at the agency. So I figured I'm going to be happy and go somewhere else.
I don't want to sign up for that.
I don't want to be unhappy when I'm, 50, 60 years old. I like to be happy. And that was really what it was. And then I left and started just decided I was going to be a manager, a literary manager specifically, not working necessarily with actors. And that was when it sort of began.
That's fantastic. And I love that you have the perspective of having been in both places.
Yes.
So
You are rumored that your Blacklist picks are the highest of any other rep. What do you attribute that to?
There's a common theme with what that means. I consistently, there are two aspects. There's the incoming and the outgoing. The incoming is I find voices from all over the world and I look for the great voices. So once I have that on the incoming, and we find that great piece of material, whether they have it when they come in or we work on it just based on their voice, then the outgoing is we expose them as the new voices in the market. And that's what I do year in, year out. I look for the great new voices and launch them. That is really what it is. There's no other rhyme or reason. There's no other strategy. It's just how much I love the discovery process of new talent and finding them literally when they live anywhere and being able to launch their career.
So it sounds like you have a really good picker, really.
Yes, that is my, I guess that's my secret superpower.
Yeah, that's it. Uh-huh. Can you describe what or how that is, or is that just something that's innate? You know it's good when you see it.
I think there's an inherent ability to decide. For me, it's to decipher what's unique and to be able to determine that this is a story that is so fascinating, but it's told with such a different method. And I think a lot of screenwriters fall into a little bit of a trap of doing what other people have done in the past. And I like people who tell stories in a different way.
Okay, so then what is sellable to you?
Well, sellable are really what I truly believe that it's big ideas, new ideas, great stories. As a wise man named Robert McKee said, is great stories well told. And to me, that's really the kind of the whole idea here is if we can find great stories and we can tell them well, we can sell them all over the marketplace and frankly in multiple mediums too. If you are a phenomenal television voice and you want to create a TV series, it's about what that idea is. If you're a phenomenal feature writer and you want to write a movie, it's about what that idea is. And then ultimately ensuring that you're writing something that I guess I would say is sellable, but I think you have to be true to who you are. And I think a lot of screenwriters ultimately fall into this gap where they say, well, you know, the marketplace is looking for X, or I think I would cross genres and, you know, we should do a horror comedy, or they try to pinpoint what the marketplace wants. And I think that's the wrong way to go. You're trying to read an algorithm that is going to change, that changes pretty regularly, but you're anticipating through your own crystal ball, which is in a very kind of small vacuum, what the marketplace is going to want 3 or 4 years from now. So what you need to do is write a story that's true to you, that's your unique voice and perspective of that story, and put it out to the marketplace and let the market really decide if it's worthy. So and I think working with me as a manager, working with one of the, like a great, you know, representative, let's say, or a producing partner, is having a fundamental understanding of, is this story unique? Will the marketplace respond to it? And figuring out a strategy that sets the course to go sell it.
So how much does the genre even matter?
Well, it does matter, but I think screenwriters also fall into another gap where they write movies that they don't even want to see. I get that a lot. People write a film and it's sort of like, wow, would you actually go see that movie? No, but I thought the market would like it.
I hate this, but can you sell it?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, that's not really how it works. Again, you have to be true to who you are and the stories that you want to tell as a writer and as a creator. So ultimately, yeah, I mean, you know, we have to be able to put out things that are, you know, genre specific, but I think the key for new writers and new voices is kind of picking a lane. I think that's another thing that very common is that writers will come to me and say, I have a drama, I have a comedy, I have a horror movie. And it's just like, okay, well, I'm just a representative, but if I'm a buyer on the other side, and if somebody came to me and said, I have all these different things, they would look at me, you know, like I'm a crazy person. So I think you have to look at it from the point of view of the buyer. The buyer doesn't want 5 different things from one writer. The buyer wants one thing from that writer and then wants that one thing again next time.
So pick your favorite thing.
Yeah, pick your favorite thing.
Because you're going in a box.
That's right. And I think everyone's like, I don't want to be pigeonholed. Oh, okay, cool.
May you be so lucky just to be pigeonholed.
Exactly. You know, I mean, there's a reason why, you know, when think about it from, I always sort of talk about cars coming off the assembly line. Car comes off assembly line, it's one color. it doesn't exactly, you don't get to, just change it because you want to one day have a white car instead of a black car or a red car. It is what it is. Stick with it. That's the one you rode off the assembly line with. That's the one you're putting out onto the highways and the freeways. Work with it. And
that's the one you sold.
That's the one, and that's exactly, and that's the one they bought, hopefully.
Right. I've heard that you actually take unsolicited material. That seems unusual.
Well, in the quest to find new voices, that's always what we're looking for. But again, it really has to be about great idea. And unsolicited we're very careful about that because I think we live in a very litigious society now, and ultimately you want to avoid those problems. I think that what we will do is we'll take people, whether it's off of our website or our Twitter or something like that, that'll come in and say, here's the idea. This is what we look for. It's like, what is the idea? Is that a unique enough idea? Then we'll read the material. It's not necessarily unsolicited at that point. We vetted that this is a cool idea, and then we kind of go from there. But I donate a lot of time to all sorts of organizations that have phenomenal community outreach to screenwriters all over the world. And my opinion is, I'm a purveyor and an excavator of artists, and somebody should be able to give them some sort of time and help. If I can, I will.
I love that. It sounds like you're going out of your way to find underrepresented people and stories.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's the whole idea. If I spent my time just kind of asking around Hollywood for the writers who have sold things that need me as a manager, what would I have? You'd be chasing tails. I'm not interested in that. I'm never going to chase the screenwriters who have had 10 movies made, and if they're coming to me, there's probably usually a problem.
Right.
I like people who don't have any problems. I want new people so we can build together. I want to mold what their strategy is. I want to mold what the career is going to be. When I find new voice, it's really the best part of what we do, that discovery. And then from there, you're able to build out and create something that no one has seen before. And that's the big idea.
Yeah, that's wonderful. How do you see kind of the different perspectives of selling on the agency side or selling on the management side? How's it different?
Well, I think that right now, on the agency side, I think that there's theoretically at least, I would say pre-WGA versus ATA.
Right.
Okay.
There's a scuffle at the moment.
Right. But so prior to that, there was a little bit on the agency side, there's a little bit of a transactional idea, which is, okay, well, here's a script. Let's see if we can sell it. If we can, great. If we can't, so be it. I think for me on the management side, when I look out in terms of that strategy, it's not just about the possibility for the sale. It's also about the start of the career. So making sure that the writer is read by the people who are going to be fans and build the relationship for that writer for the future. So I'm not necessarily looking at the short term, how do we get something sold? You're looking at it saying, who are those relationships I'm starting now? This is where you're jumping into a brand new relationship with people that will hopefully last for years and years.
Because you're trying to build a career.
Right.
Rather than
I'm not trying to make a transaction. I'm trying to build a career.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Then because you're wearing a producing hat and a management hat, how do you balance the two?
Well, first of all, I'd say on the producing side, I'm always looking for great producing partners. Everything that we do on the producing side, we go in with phenomenal producing partners. I don't pretend to be anything that I'm not. I look to work with the great ones on the producing side. We're very selective in terms of the stuff that we get involved with the producers. Every time we say yes, we know how much work that goes into. We're very respectful of what that process means. I think the producing thing has been a bit more organic for us in recent years just because we know our clients so well, but we also know the marketplace. So by going out and identifying intellectual property, ideas, concepts, even if they're original concepts, then we're able to give them to our clients knowing that they're the specific right place to go. Then we're being involved as producers. We don't just sort of say we're going to produce every single project that comes through for one reason or another. That would be asinine. So we avoid that, and we are hyper respectful of the producing job and occupation. So we're not necessarily going to be the people who are going to go stand on set and give the great filmmakers the notes. We leave them to their job. That's kind of how I like to do it. If I've done my job as a producer, I've gotten the script into shape that the movie or show is getting ordered, and Godspeed. Let's go do it and let's go to set and all that. But I don't need to be standing there every day ensuring the product. Other people can do that.
Right. You're not going to be the line producer on that.
Right. People are better at that than I am. If I studied for years to be a line producer, maybe I would do that, but I don't. That's somebody else's job.
I can do everything.
I don't pretend to know it all.
So it sounds like when you're producing a project, you get the idea first and take it to a writer for them to develop, and then you work with them to develop it?
Oftentimes. Or a writer will say, here's a very nascent idea or concept. Let's work on this together and really build it out. And a lot of the producing stuff, these are things that I develop over the course of not just a couple of weeks. These are things that take years.
Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah, this is strategically a creative partner for years and years, and that is a process. So we're in it, and if the client wants me to be involved as a producer, great. If they don't, that's fine too. It does not matter to me. Either way, if I'm a manager or I'm a producer, I'm doing the job regardless. Right? My job doesn't change. My job is to make sure that these movies get made or these shows get on the air. What am I doing about that every single day?
How unlikely or hard is it for, say, a first-time writer to actually sell their project?
Well, it's a little bit like opening a combination safe. You need to hit all those numbers, otherwise it doesn't open. So you have to really. It's rare, but if you write the right thing, it's not that rare. And if you write the right thing, and I've certainly, speaking for myself, if I believe in it, then we're good. Like you're gonna earn from that regardless of whether it sells. Mm-hmm. That's the idea. So if you write a great piece of material, you're gonna earn a living because we're gonna start your career, and that informs how you're gonna actually earn from that script that may or may not have sold. I don't guarantee new writers that anything's going to sell. That would also be totally ridiculous. What I guarantee is a lot of people will read, and they're going to be the right people. And I would stand by that every single time, that I'm going to get people at least to read and have an opinion about who the new voice is.
Is it kind of cumulative? Because, for actors, they tell you, it's going to take 10 years or the same casting director seeing you 5 times and liking you before you get that job. Is it kind of like that? People need to read you several times and know that you're there and you're consistent and you're good?
Well, I think you have to constantly, to a certain extent, but I think you have to constantly show up with new material. Mm-hmm. I think the thing about being an actor is you have to constantly audition. Okay. But the thing for being a writer is you have to constantly stay relevant, meaning you need new material. You have to have.
You can't walk around with that one script for 10 years.
That's it. You need to stay relevant. So oftentimes I'll go to, whether it's, a film festival, screenwriting festival, or something like that, and I'll see somebody, and then a year later they'll say, "Thank you for reading my last script. I did a rewrite on it. Would you like to read it?" And I'll say, "I've done a lot over the last 12 months. Have you only rewritten that one script in the last 12 months? That's a problem." Yeah. So you need to generate new product, new material constantly. If you don't do that, then you'll fail. So
it needs to be your full-time job.
That's correct. I don't represent hobbyists. I represent people who are treating it as a career. Well, I live on the other side of the country. I live in Australia or London or whatever. Well, okay, cool. Well, then can you work full-time from there? I don't know what to tell you. I can't help you make family and personal life choices. All I know is being relevant means generating more product, which means putting out more pages and more scripts every single year. Do I think it's best to be living in Los Angeles? Probably, but I'm not going to make people move here. I have clients who live all over the world, and they're successful. It's just a matter of how much material you're putting out. Yeah,
that was my next question, is if you have to live here, because if you're discovering the best voices all over the world, how do you actually find them?
Yeah, well, I find them in any way you can think of. I mean, literally, it doesn't matter. I take all kinds. So, I'm wide open in terms of how we find people. But yeah, I mean, living here is definitely a real thing, at least in the upstart, and certainly as it relates to television. I think a lot of people who live in other parts of the country or around the world say, "I want to staff on a TV show, but I live in North Carolina." It's like, well, it's not going to happen. So this is where the focal point of the business is. You need to be around it. This is the medium that you want to work in. The medium sort of starts here. It's not to say there aren't writers' rooms in New York City or other locations, but, for the most part, you need to be here. In terms of being a feature writer, I would say writing new original material certainly works for being being anywhere you want to be. But for booking those jobs and consistently getting the gigs and maintaining those relationships, wouldn't it make sense to be here, to be surrounded by your peers and have those advocates constantly working alongside you?
So those face-to-face relationships are vital.
Very much so.
So if you're a writer and you're trying to sell something and you really want to attach yourself as the director or the producer, how does that go?
Well, it's tricky. I think there's a strategy for that. Again, just to talk about people who should know what they're great at, you have to know what that means. If you're saying, I'm going to be the director of this, well, have you earned it? Just because you wrote the script, does that mean that you're the best director for this? Would it be better if there was another filmmaker for it? I guess. I think you have to really be self-aware about where you are in your career. And just to say, I wrote a couple of screenplays and now I want to be a director. For me, it's also, that's a real economic decision as well as creative.
Yeah.
Economically, you have to know what that means. You're going to go be a filmmaker. You're going to probably not earn real money for a couple of years. This is going to be your job for a few years. It's a real life choice. So what I like to tell writers is get your foothold as a screenwriter, develop your relationships, work with producers who will support you as a filmmaker. And I think that's kind of the key.
Because if you hold on too tight for that first job, can it kill the deal?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, people will just say, yeah, we're not interested. We're not going to spend the time with a first-time director and, on a movie that's, whether it's a $5 million movie or a $25 million movie, they're just not interested in it as much. If you go out as an independent filmmaker and you raise the money yourself and family money or investments, whatever it is, and you're able to do it and do something great, amazing. But if you're looking to Hollywood to help you, it's a little harder. It's a little harder to do that.
Now, when you're talking about even if someone's script doesn't sell, but they're starting their career as a writer, what might that look like? Are they getting paid to write on other things? Where's the money at that point?
Yeah, for the most part, you are. If you write something brand new and we put it out to the marketplace and it doesn't sell, you're going to go into rooms and people are going to want to talk about it. Two things really. What's next from you and what do they have that could make sense for you? And you have to kind of work through that. So you have to be prepared. What are the new ideas that you're working on? Again, do they fall within the same genre that you've been in? Are they still inherently you? You're not trying to write towards the marketplace. So now you got your ideas on one side and then the other side. What do they have? Well, do they control pieces of intellectual property? Are there projects that they've been developing for a long time that they need help with? What are those situations? So where are the jobs? Yeah, I mean, again, being a screenwriter, I say this pretty often, is very much a blue-collar way of earning a living. So you got to now go work for it. So if they have a potential job or an opportunity, you got to go after it. It's not like, you don't sell your script, you go in these meetings and I call you and be like, congratulations, they're just going to write you a check for $100,000. They're not going to just give you money.
That's not how it works?
Not how it goes. If it was, I'd be a writer. You have to go out and you have to, bust your butt and get those jobs. To go back to a point that you were making earlier, which is about how long does it take for an actor to become a star, let's say, or how long does it take for a writer to really hit their stride? Again, we're in a more or less a quote-based business, but you have to book a job, you can get a certain amount of money, and then you have to deliver on that job. That takes you months and months and months of work, sometimes longer than months. And then you deliver. And then you hope you book your next job. And then maybe you get a little bit more money, right? Your price goes up. But now you're a year into it, and you're 2 years into it. So by the time you're in that 5-year mark, you look back over the 5 years and like, wow, okay, how much money did I actually earn? And you think, well, I should have gone into real estate. So you literally could work on one project for 6 months or one project for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Know what those economics are and be cognizant of what that means.
So are there writers who work all the time and write constantly and are hired to work constantly who very rarely have something that's actually produced and on a screen?
It does happen. Certainly, it's my job is to make sure that I'm not just representing people who just have things in development. My job is to make sure that movies are getting made. So when we write a brand new script, I'm surrounding them with the right people and the right advocates that are going to help get those movies made or get those shows on the air. So yeah, the idea here is just to be a screenwriter, who's working and getting hired. That's lovely, but we need to go a step further. You need to have movies made and shows on the air. That's what the process is. You want those residuals. That's the stuff that keeps you going.
That's the ticket.
That's the ticket.
Residuals.
It's about residuals.
So what is your process when, say, you find a new voice and you take on this new client? Walk us through from the, I'm going to sign this new client, to we're going to develop something, to we're going to take it to market.
Once I find a voice that I love, and, it could be a voice that is a television voice who wants to write in film, or vice versa. It could be I represent playwrights turned screenwriters, or investigative journalists who want to be screenwriters, or television show creators, or valet parkers who want to write a movie. It doesn't matter. What matters is we start our process, which is very hands-on development, getting into the weeds on what the idea is, and we start breaking it out, just as you would, not necessarily a writing partner, but a real partner in crime, so that what you're doing, there's a path, and there's a real creative strategy and a kind of economic strategy and a business strategy, career strategy.
So you're getting really into story and beats and all of that with your client.
Oh yeah. Yep. Very much so. I don't have clients that just call me and say, hey, I wrote a brand new script. You should read it. Rarely. For me, it is, what are you working on? Where are you today? Where will you be in a month? Where are you going to be in 6 months or 6 years? And that's how we do it. Very, very hands-on, hardcore development.
God, and what a difference from someone writing alone in their room for a year and coming up with a script.
That's right. So if you have the voice, I can help you be an extrovert.
Yeah. I imagine that's quite a hill in some cases.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then once you get it to a point where this is ready for market, what do you do?
So first order of business is determine what the team is that surrounds the new writer. So if there's an agent that I need to go to, find an agency, again, more complicated based on the current business. Right. But traditionally, find an agent or an agency to advocate for that new piece of material, the new voice. If there's an attorney, I need to do that. I'll get an attorney involved, as well. And then we start our strategy. The strategy could be anything from we're going to go to, 3 to 5 producers in one day. Could be we're going to go to 35 producers in one day.
Hold on. Are you also trying to package it at this point? Or
Potentially,
are you
yes.
Okay.
Potentially. If we're going to package it, could be you figure what that strategy is. If they're specific, male lead, female lead role, whatever it is, we take those shots if that's what it requires. I love going to great filmmakers and taking some high-end shots if we can do that. If it's not working or if it's not moving sort of quickly enough, which is often the case, then we'll just start going out to producers and advocates and maybe it's the producing partner for an actor or producing partner for a filmmaker, and kind of go from there.
Now, would you go to all the producers at the same time, or do you go one at a time?
If it's clean and we don't have any attachments, we probably go to everybody at the same time and make everybody...
And hope there's a bidding war.
Yeah, yes, you do. Bidding wars are rare, but we have them. We're able to do it strategically pretty often. And, the idea is if you choose wisely, in terms of who your advocates are, if you choose wisely in terms of who your producing partners are, what studio you're trying to sell it to, who the financier is that they have a relationship with. You have to lay these things out. It is like, getting ready for any big sporting event. Like you're coaching a football team or a basketball team or a baseball team. You have a game plan.
Mm-hmm. And you're picking your buyers based on the most likely candidate for what you're putting out there.
Yeah, but again, the most likely candidate of who would make the movie. Mm-hmm. So work backwards from that. Who's going to make this? And then you figure out what are the steps to get there? Or if it's in television, what's the right network? What's the right, cable, streamer, whatever it is, and work backwards from that. If I believe that NBC is the right home, okay, cool. Let's work backwards from that. What's the right studio? Is there a studio? If not, who are the producers? If there's great producers for it, awesome. Should it be a filmmaker or a director? Again, cast. Do we do that?
Who has relationships with the end game?
Yeah, you're trying build it out to get to the end zone.
And then do you send out scripts first and hope you get to come in for a pitch, or do you go in and pitch and then give the script?
In television specifically? No, for the most part, script should speak for itself.
Okay.
So I would always, circumstances change when you're a known writer at a known commodity, but for new writers, no. That script has to stand on its own. That script gets you in the room. And if it sells, great. If it doesn't, like I was saying earlier, loop it back around to now, what are you doing next?
Would someone buy a script without meeting the person in the room?
Sure, 100%.
Is there any rhyme or reason as to when you might get in the room and when you might not?
Not necessarily. I think you get in the room if you write a great piece of material. They'll want to sit with you. What are you doing next? Where are you from? How did you get
here?
Who are you? What makes you who you be? And then from at that point, it's fair game. Now you start the career.
And then what is the writer's job in that room?
Like I was saying before, it's a two-way street. What are the new ideas that you have that fall in line with what this person read? What are you willing to do for those ideas? I'm going to write that on spec. I'm willing to sell this as a pitch. Tell me who the producers are that you want me to bring to you. Tell me who the studio is you want to sell to. There's that, and then the other idea is be open to what they have on that side. What do they have for you in terms of potential ideas and stuff like that?
Okay, so what we do on the show is we have a martini shot, which is the last shot of the day.
Oh.
So what is your big takeaway you want the listeners to think about?
No, it's very simple. It's keep writing. It depends who is listening, I guess I would say, but ultimately if you're a screenwriter out there, you have to keep writing. You have to generate new material. You have to show up to the party with party favors. You have to continue to evolve, as an artist, as a human being, I guess we all do, but as an artist specifically, you have to continue to evolve and keep rolling and keep rewriting and reworking and building out your ideas and making relationships, finding new friends and family who can help you along the way. And don't treat breaking in as a hobby. Treat it as a career. Give yourself enough economic freedom to be creatively free. So that means having the financial capability to do this. I think a lot of times people who are starting out in this business, they are so strung out because they can't afford to do it. And very quickly, they lose sight of everything and fall deeper into a hole. You have to financially be ready to do it. I mean, I started as an intern. I made $0 collectively. I think that's the concept here. You must be ready to take this risk because as an artist and thus a struggling artist, you need to be ready to take those risks.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Catch a Break. We'd like to thank our guest, Adam Kolbrenner. Please check out the website at catchabreakpodcast.com and follow us on all the social media. Catch a Break is produced in partnership with Catchlight Films, Rose Colored Pictures, and the other 50%, and is also sponsored by Crewvy, an online solution for producers to find and promote local crew and production support worldwide. Find them at crewvy.com. That's CREWVIE.com. And thank you to Andrew Jocelyn, who created our theme music, Mantra for a Struggling Artist. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check out our next episode where we go even further into buying and selling.